Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back on the One Piece reviews from Totally Not Mark. We've got 3 left to do. We've got his reviews of Wano. I have currently just finished volume 97, which is more than I needed for these 3. So that's going to be awesome. I'm going to do these and then check out his Checkered Fate theory. And I've got a few other theory videos as well, and a few other One Piece videos I want to do this month. So this is fun times. I've absolutely loved reading One Piece. It's been absolutely fantastic. And because I only read physical copies, there is going to be a bit of a pause in between that, because 97 only just come out recently, and I have got volume 98 pre-ordered. But yeah, let's get into what he thought of the first arc of Wano. I love it. I am loving Wano so much. Let's see what he thought of the first arc.
100 chapters. This is the most excited I've been in the entire story, and that includes Marineford.
Yeah. Here we go.
Wano is the best arc I've ever read in One Piece, or at least so far it feels that way. I've only read Act 1,
It's incredible.
but this part of the story at least has captured a
Kaido
I've
is
not
whoa.
felt reading One Piece since Alabasta, and to be honest, I might have enjoyed it even a little bit more. Basically, what I'm saying is, so far this arc has been some of, if not the best One Piece material I've
It just
read,
keeps getting
and if
better,
it
doesn't it, man?
this tremendous standard until its climax, it will go down as my favorite.
So much
arc in
story
the
and like
entire
reveals
series.
and stuff
Over
going on in
20
it.
years deep, and we are still getting stories that are blowing me
Yeah,
away.
even Ace has like affected this part of the story.
But enough of me blustering. Let's get into this because it's honestly amazing. I'm Totally Not Mark, and today I want to share with you my first impressions of, thoughts on, and review for the stunning, the shocking, and the mysterious Act 1 to the Wano.
Hell yes.
There was something about Wano that captured my attention right away, and that was how it's presented and structured. Typically, or more commonly in modern storytelling, narratives tend to follow what I'm sure many of you are already aware of, the 3-act structure, writing principle or format popularized by Sid Field in his 1979 book entitled Screenplay. In his explanation of the structure, he asserts that Act 1 covers the setup, Act 2 the
And then we get the
confrontation,
revolution, yeah.
Act 3 the resolution. Now, if we were to take the Alabasta arc as an example, Act 1 would be where Crocodile establishes himself and his desires within the story, as well as set up the driving motivations for the main characters of the tale. This would be when Croc pretended to save the town, has the meeting with the rest of his organization, and when the Straw Hats start marching.
This is a nice little look back at that. Cool,
Act
cool.
2 is always longer and less refined, being much more open to interpretation. Typically, it contains a failure or obstacle not met by the protagonist, which they will have to pick themselves up from thereafter. More recently, the second act has been split right down the middle by a turning point within the story where there's conflict once again. Once again with Alabasta, this would be where the gang get captured by Croc.
Oh yeah, in the
This turning point
crystal
can also be observed within pretty much
prison
any
thing.
arc within One Piece.
What are those
In
things called?
Arlong Park,
Oh, I
it's
can't
where
remember.
Usopp looks to have been killed by Nami. In Water 7, it's when Robin looks to have
Mate,
been
that was an epic moment.
It's when the plan for the wedding cake doesn't go according to plan. Personally, I think this is a very useful confrontation for long format storytelling, as it's great for pacing. Putting the heroes on the back foot and giving them a chance to lift themselves up to the heights not yet reached. After this, Act 3 is usually the resolution. This is where our heroes, now armed with a better understanding of their weaknesses, use what they've learned to find a resolution. In Alabasta, this is when Luffy returns from having lost to Croc, armed with a strategy instead of
Oh yeah, the water in that,
like he did in his first attempt. Interestingly, however, what's evident when looking at this 3-act structure, specifically when detailing long stories, is that unlike Acts 1 and 3, which offer concrete goals for the respective sections, setup and resolution, Act 2, for lack of a better term, is sort of vague. And this is where the Wano arc decides to change everything.
Okay, yeah.
See, in classic Japanese plays, also known as kabuki plays, they follow a structure called Johakyu, otherwise known in the West as the classical 5-act structure. Having not had any experience with the concept of Johakyu until doing research for this video, I'm pleased to see that they are basically the same, albeit having different naming conventions for what transpires in the respective sections. Jo is Act 1. Ha has 3 different distinct sections, and Kyu is the resolution. So, in the interest of time, considering this video is discussing Act 1 only, or Jo in Japanese, let's look at what this section is supposed to achieve instead.
Yeah, what's it setting up?
Defined as a slow opening which introduces the characters and the story. So, with that direction in mind, let's take a look at what sort of techniques and choices Eiichiro Oda has employed when constructing and introducing us to the wild and uncharted world of Wano. Taking place over the course of 16
Kaido's so cute.
Wano achieves a remarkable amount in a surprisingly short period of time. But perhaps for me, the most impressive aspect comes in how accessible, lighthearted, and fun it is to follow along with. For One Piece to now be on its 31st story arc, and for it to be as easy, if not easier to follow than Alabasta, its 11th story arc is nothing short of remarkable and the mark of a true visionary, the likes of which I've seldom been exposed to.
He's incredible. Oda's incredible, man.
Chapter 909. Right out the gate in chapter 909,
Marco!
a unique tone was established, and by the time I had finished reading this chapter, I knew I would likely be in store for not only something different, but something very beautiful. Totally separate from the events of Whole Cake Island, we catch up with Cat Viper's forces and Cat Viper himself as he converses with Marco of the former Whitebeard pirates. Apart from the main narrative takeaway from this scene being that he's not joined the fight and that he has a message for Cat Viper to pass on to Luffy for him, it also serves as a means for us, the audience, to be filled in on some small level the activity that transpired between Marco's forces and Whitebeard right after the Paramount War. When
you find out later on as well, like
what they did to their captain and father figure, Whitebeard. Highlighted through beautifully drawn and composed pages showing Marco's emotional state and how much he really cared for him, choosing to, instead of fighting for him any longer, to protect what he held dear the most, this small village in the corner of nowhere. It's honestly beautiful and endearing, but what's more is that despite this being the only instance during this arc where we see Cat Viper and Marco, it was also the very first scene of the story Oda presented us with, which tells me as a reader that
this is gonna come
definitely
back.
not be the last time we see either Marco
No,
or Cat
definitely
Viper
not. Oh
within
my
this
god,
arc.
yeah.
With that said, it's at this point the previous scene closes and something very different starts to happen. The panel structure is interesting, framing a curtain opening, cherry blossoms falling, and shamisen playing, unveiling one of the most stunningly beautiful revelation panels into a new area I've yet seen presented.
Look at that. The manga's so good.
I think this is the most beautiful panel in One Piece so far. And what's more is that I really and truly believe that this story's world hasn't looked as beautiful as this glorious world Wano boasts at almost every available opportunity. Taking this time to reintroduce us to characters like
all wearing costumes, and that's so good. Because they've been there a while, haven't they? Yeah.
Frankie as a carpenter, Robin as a geisha, and most importantly for now, Zoro, who is being reprimanded for stealing a sword that he acquired way back in the story. Having been instructed to keep as low profile as they possibly could before Luffy's return and the enactment of their plan, Zoro is forced to take action to protect his life in what I think is the single best action.
It looks amazing. Look at that. Look at that.
Sick. Already the story is interesting, and on a visual front, I don't think One Piece has ever looked more impressive. Chapter 910. Something I noticed while researching for this was how closely both the story structure and narrative itself reflect and complement one another. The story being that, as I mentioned earlier, a kabuki play. Now, that particular style of play was developed during the Tokugawa shogunate, a military government that ruled from 1603 to 1868 in Japan. You might have recognized the term shogun in shogunate there, and that's not where the similarities end either. This particular government practiced extremely strict isolationism. While encouraging native arts to flourish, it led Japan down a path that eventually had them arrive at a sobering conclusion. Locked away from the rest of the world, they had become technologically illiterate when compared to the rest of civilization. And if this story sounds familiar, it's because it's a clear inspiration for the Wano country.
Wow, okay, cool.
Isolated from the rest of the world by the oppressive shoguns of the time. They continued to ignore the obvious problems that doing so presented. In this chapter, Luffy and the crew arrive in the turbulent seas surrounding Wano, when, once again, Oda takes a moment to show us some spectacular artwork depicting towering rock formations piercing the crushing waves, koi fish, and even bonsai trees, which, as a nice artistic choice, is clearly drawn to represent the artwork of that particular time period in Japanese history. And
sick.
So, with all of that implemented, what better way is there to tell this story of isolationist Japanese-style shogunates than by structuring it like the very kabuki plays that period is famous
That's
for
sick.
developing.
That's really cool.
It's a
So clever.
choice that not only allows this arc to feel distinct from the 30 others, but also feels intrinsically connected on a personal level with the story being explored right now. And even if I want to talk about everything else outside the themes of this arc, this chapter alone is both tense and gripping, with Luffy and co having to use giant koi fish to crash land onto the country in the first place, leading Oda to make another phenomenally appropriate narrative decision to remove every other point of view character that isn't Luffy. He wakes up on the beach alone before being confronted by two very intimidating creatures we've not yet seen in the series. Chapter 911. Now that we have only one point of view character to focus on, the world around us is allowed to play as much a pivotal role in telling the story.
It's cooler because we don't usually get Luffy as the main point of view character. It's usually just everything else. But it's cool that they did this.
Various levels become more acutely aware of and accustomed to this brand new mysterious land. Going into the story, we know that Wano is closed off to the rest of the world, and so keeping the point of view in Luffy, lost and confused, helps sell this mysterious side of the world exceptionally well, while also allowing the story to remain simple and focused. There aren't multiple plot threads here. We are given room to take in and appreciate the world as Oda sees fit.
Yeah, let's learn slowly what's going on here.
Place, and that's in question here, takes hold almost immediately when Luffy becomes entangled in an effort to stop this thug from kidnapping this little girl. There's some really cool scenes interspliced, like Luffy using his observation haki to dodge and counter a sniper shot unseen, and when he uses the Supreme King haki, he subdues a giant baboon, and that's pretty dope. Now, one of the main
it's pretty dope indeed.
When we decided to follow the one point of view character in Luffy was its ability to endear us more effectively to new characters like Otama, the little girl he saved from that thug. She has a devil fruit ability that enables her to take off parts of her cheek, feed it to creatures, and make
then control them.
Her.
Yeah.
She's honestly incredibly sweet and incredibly grateful.
Sick. It's sick. Isn't she able to do it to like? Oh, we'll get into that. Kind of works on the half people, doesn't it? With the
for saving her all the food she has in the world. Already starving, she flees the river to drink from it just to try to distract herself
no,
from how hungry it is. It's at this moment another new character by the name of Tenkuyama Hitetsu barges in, reprimanding Luffy as an intruder that ate all of Otama's food. Overhearing this, she returns home, pleading with him to forgive him, before fainting. As it happens, the water she drank from the river has been polluted heavily. And
yeah, that's all they have.
Now, there's nothing spectacular or flashy about this scene or chapter, really, but it's still very effective.
It's nice and setting up.
Does and endears us to Otama extremely well, which thankfully gives Luffy a new immediate goal he needs to attend to: save the little girl. And what's more is that apparently she's been waiting for a certain pirate called Ace to return for quite a while.
Wow.
While a small detail, this tiny piece of info further links Luffy and Otama, and what's more, helps bolster this feeling that Wano really is closed off to the rest of the world. During Marineford, the entire world looked on in
everyone was on that.
battle in the history of this series transpired.
So
Everywhere Luffy went, he had to disguise himself, and by association, everyone knew what happened to Whitebeard and Ace. But not this little girl. Not
no one knows anything. Yeah.
Oh, and additionally, I'll mention this because I just thought it was cool. Oda, the absolute Chatosaurus Rex, the pharaoh of foreshadowing, already told us that Ace had visited Wano before. Way back in Marineford, the character of Oars Jr., we see a flashback where Ace mentions how he learned to make that hat Oars wears in Wano country.
Oh!
There goes Oda again, casually slipping in
wow!
color to a scene he won't write for another decade.
Sick. That's cool.
When the little girl wakes up, Luffy
wow.
Ace is dead
what a legend.
I personally really like this move from Luffy. He knows better than anyone that this is news not to dwell long on. Rip it off like a band-aid and move on with your life. Besides, and more importantly, he has another life to save right now, Otama, and she's fading fast. With that said, after being filled in on the circumstances that surround the island of Wano, with Kaido and his men seizing all the food and fresh water, leaving the rest of the area a wasteland and heavily polluted, Luffy gives himself the job of bringing Otama to get help. But not before Hitetsu hooks him up with some sweet new threads.
Looks good, man. I got the Funko Pop.
Yeah, Luffy takes his sword, but notices something about it that's familiar, and it should be. Well, sort of. This is an incredible callback to Logtown from chapter, get this, 97. That's over 800 chapters.
Wow, okay.
Back then, Zoro acquired Kitetsu 3. And right now, Luffy is running around with Kitetsu 2. He has in his possession a sword that's way above his skill level and way above the likes of anything we've seen before. Or at least I think that's the case. It's one of the most famous swords in the world and easily the longest callback yet in this series.
It's sick,
Super
man.
impressed by that. And to be honest, calling back to prior events to either recontextualize a particular event or to add emotional resonance between two characters like the way Ace continues to do so between Otama and Luffy, these small interactions add so much color to this world and stand as a testament to the Goliath of a series One Piece has become. Luffy gets on his way, and once he's through the clearing of the trees and after some flashbacks to Ace's time spent with Otama, we finally see the wastelands of Wano. A desolate, eerie smoke fills the air as factory towers puncture the horizon. This stands in perfect contrast with the beauty we witnessed in the introduction. We immediately have something that we want to fix, and we associate that with Kaido. And that's not even to make mention of the gentleman Luffy happens to run into after Luffy and Zoro reunite actually brought a tear to my
Yeah,
eye.
man, so happy.
Special, but these are the first Straw Hat Pirates, and this is their first
Yeah, they were, weren't they? Zoro was the first one.
Seeing Zoro, someone that rarely shows that level of emotion with a
I
massive
was so
smile
happy
on
to
his
see
face
him, yeah.
as Luffy jumps onto him is what I love most about this series. The fantastically well-realized relationships and characters. There's some
They really have grown. They really have. It's beautiful.
Situation while eating the food himself, and Zoro remarking that this explains why his tummy hurts. These scenes are what I live for, and that's when Basil Hawkins arrives on the scene. Now, one thing I haven't chatted about regarding this arc thus far has been how ridiculously funny it is. Now,
it is quite. It's got the humour there. The comedy is up there.
This next section, where Hawkins addresses Luffy and Zoro for the first time, I recorded my reaction immediately after reading it. Check it out. I love how Hawkins is like so foreboding and Zoro is like so super serious, but then Luffy just goes off the rails with silly. He goes like, I would advise you not to sightsee here. Are you aware who controls this country from the shadows? Nope, I don't know. It's Kaido! I'm gonna love that!
Yeah.
Subtle. Zoro's all like, shut up, Luffy. Kamon said we're not supposed to know that. He was like, I was just kidding.
Yeah.
I love this chapter. Funnily and interestingly,
Amazing, yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, Luffy, come on, chill.
Requests to use it, but Luffy decides to fight with it. Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, he punches people while also
Holding the
slicing
sword.
people by accident, so I guess it's surprisingly effective anyway.
It's absolutely brilliant.
John is the character of Basil Hawk. He seems to have been after siding with Kaido as one of his subordinates, and he's one of the first generation pirates along with Luffy and Trafalgar Law. He's based off of a tarot card reader, and his moves largely rely on which cards he gets when he calls upon them. Not exactly sure how relevant he'll be long term, but he adds a neat little dynamic when they clash.
It's one of those though. It kind of like helps having them around to show how it happened with them joining Kaido and that.
Story again, something I also noticed was that it was quite efficient with its scene selection. Immediately after escaping from Hawkins, we're introduced to a female samurai working in a tea shop called Okiku. We learn Law's forces are nearby, and we learn about some of the hierarchical structure in society through the wrestler Yokozuna. They even have medical teas that cure illnesses, and that's only within a few pages. And I think this is largely what makes this story feel so engaging for me. We're always learning something new.
Yeah, there's always something interesting to learn. Jeez.
Now has first-hand experience with how the civilizations are struggling, and therefore he sets his eyes on a goal of liberating the country. However, just as they're getting into that, another one of Kaido's fake devil fruit minions cuts in. It's Batman! Vengeance. There's a pretty sweet shot of Zoro blocking an arrow attack on the owner of the tea shop, and this gazelle man just runs off with Otama towards the town of Bakura. Something that's easy to love about this chapter is how there's never any resistance between Luffy and Zoro to take the most action-packed route.
Yeah, they're always going for it. It's like, screw this.
Nami or Usopp aren't there to be the voices of reason, and so we get
who's gonna like stop him and talk him down? Yeah.
Into a town and cause all sorts of chaos. Chapters 915, 916, and 917. Right about here is where the combined forces of Luffy and Zoro's no subtlety plan begins to cross a threshold of no return. You see, Otama, at this moment in time, has been taken because she's suspected of having a real devil fruit ability. Thankfully, she keeps this information quiet despite her being tortured by flyers. Needless to say, Zoro and Luffy aren't so quiet. As they begin to look around the area and engage with all sorts of different townsfolk, I'm reminded why I love this atmosphere Oda's established whenever we enter a new island. It has culture, different principles and dialects. Heck, it even has its own currency. Gold coins, which again just makes sense because they don't use berries. They're
outside of everything else,
Gold is the currency of Amazon Lily and Extal is the currency of Skypia. It's a small detail, but it goes a long way in demonstrating the level of consistency and detail One Piece employs from start to finish. Now, this is around the time when Yokozuna's eyes lock with Okiku's, and before he knows it, she's slicing off his top knot. And he mad. Naturally, we are still in an expository phase within this act, but you can definitely tell we're building to something.
We're still learning everything.
Fight this WWF wannabe, but because, we're barking up the chain of command, and sooner or later, someone important will bark back.
Yeah.
And we might not like who that ends up being. Luffy facepalms Yokozuna to next week with some funny moments interspliced, like Luffy's win-loss record as a sumo wrestler against Usopp, but in doing so, blows down the living quarters of a person called Hold'em.
Oh no. Oh yeah, he's got the weird lion belly, hasn't he?
Around the the same level as Hawkins, this Hold'em guy's design I can't really make heads or tails of. He's got a lion on his tummy that shares a nervous system, and there's a scene where he punches himself in the balls. Classic. However, right now he's holding Otama for all the world to see in his jaws as a hostage. Now, to be honest,
Yeah, these half-beast like people are really weird.
Arrival of someone we've heard from before, Jack the Drought.
Oh, mates.
Hanzo, this individual wreaked havoc on the little island but got dealt with indirectly without Luffy's input. We have no idea what will happen if he arrives and Luffy has to contend with him. But in saying that, there's a very sweet moment that rears its head right after the battle when Luffy yeets Otama from the jaws of the lion and reverses Hold'em's firepower. Genuinely, I thought this was super cute, and it made me well up a little bit because of just how wholesome it is. Chapters 918, 919, and 920. Basically, to wrap things up, Luffy and Otama dash off on the back of this horse lady thanks to Otama's devil fruit power.
Yeah, so she, I was right. She can kind of control, like, them as well.
Alright, you still there? Okay, great. Because Law wants to bring Luffy to the top of this mountain to see Odin's castle's ruins, and man, it melted my brain. Take a look. Kinemon, Momonosuke, Raizo,
they've all got graves.
All the samurai we spent the last 300 chapters dead? Big question for sure, and would you believe it's actually way crazier than you might think it is. Luffy and the gang begin ascending towards the castle, the scenery once again looking astounding.
Mate, the reveal blew my brain, man. It absolutely blew my mind.
In the natural beauty of the world and everything associated with the forces of Kaido, a wasteland. Getting a glimpse within these classrooms, we see that not only is Kaido poisoning the lands and ravaging its resources, but also poisoning the minds of those young and impressionable with propaganda supporting his efforts. Interestingly, though, alongside these illuminating panels, we're introduced to this guy called Napping Kyoshiro.
Mate, what a big deal he becomes.
Who died 20 years ago. Those words act as a prophecy of sorts for the region. To preface this, I'm still not sure where the significance lies within this, but I have a couple of theories, perhaps. Alright, check it out. You are the moon, unaware of the dawn. May your purpose be fulfilled and cast 9 shadows on the night woven of 20 years, and you shall know the brilliance of the dawn. It's pretty obvious, to me at least, that the 9 shadows are referring to the 9 Straw Hat Pirates, as Jinbei technically hasn't taken his place amongst the crew yet,
right.
And Carrot is as much a Straw Hat right now as Vivi is. But this number could be intentionally misleading and might refer to Kinemon, Momo, and a bunch of the other samurai that's
I reckon, yeah.
Additionally, I'm interested in why she's referring to them as, quote, the moon. Obviously, it works pretty effectively for the analogy she's using, but later in the next chapter, it's revealed that those supporting Momonosuke's efforts have tattooed a moon onto their bodies. Also, the verb that's used in this is woven. Now, the only reference to weaving anything in this story so far has been this abandoned village at the start of the act that Otama is from, where she would spend all her days weaving hats. Now, maybe that location has some significance. I mean, Oda must have shown it to us for some reason. There might be more to this, but for now, I am reserving any further theories because what Kinemon reveals later on is bloody insane.
Yeah. Mate, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what, time travel? Time travel?
This rocked my
Yeah, I was just like, what? No way.
Momonosuke and all the other samurai that we've gathered over the course of the last few hundred chapters are all from 20 years
ago.
Past. There is now time travel in One Piece, specifically as Kinemon recounts the events of Kaido's takeover 20 years ago.
But, like, doesn't the Devil Fruit only let you go forward in time?
The subsequent death of his wife, Lady Kozuki Toki, whom, while holding her 2 children, Momonosuke and his sister, Hiyori, informs her loyal followers of the following. Mankind cannot return to the past, but it can leap into the future. I have used this strange time ability to travel further and further into the future, until at last I arrive here, at my final destination. These quotes are ridiculously interesting to me. First of all, it's curious that she herself doesn't travel forward in time with them. It's implied through Kinemon's point of view that she appeared to be someone that came from an era long ago.
So she might have been from the lost
further into time,
century?
She elects to stay behind. And what's more is this, she gives them Momonosuke, but not his sister that they mentioned by name like 4 panels ago. Personally, I think this sister needs to play a big role in the story. I mean, if she's inconsequential to the story, then they wouldn't have her as a character in the first place, let alone a named character. Something perhaps a little more minor is that she refers to her power as strange time abilities instead of a devil fruit power. Does she come from a time where these powers weren't acquired?
Oh no, I assume it's a devil fruit ability.
I've got so many questions from this very small but super interesting flashback sequence. Kinemon then goes on to describe how they were thrust 20 years into the future. With their headstones visible and their homeland in ruin, he runs through the series of events that led him to Zou, Dressrosa, and eventually Punk Hazard,
Absolutely sick.
Ultimately met in the first place. We learn that there's a sizable following still in Wano that desires for an uprising, and thus they iron out a plan to raid Kaido's base 2 weeks from now on the night of the Fire Festival. This chapter was exceptionally exposition-heavy.
Incredible.
Gave me more than enough to think about when it came
I'm sure I went to Twitter and was just like, there's time traveling, one first!
I'm exceptionally interested in seeing
What?
all of this manifests later on, and now with Kaido's name being thrown around as a target, and with how our introduction to him a while back was made, I am intimidated by him, but also can't wait to see what he's made of when Luffy eventually clashes with him down the road.
Well, he does clash very soon on, doesn't he?
922 and 923. Alright, so for those of you that haven't seen this material before and are currently thinking that everything up until now in Act 1 has been great, oh my sweet summer children, y'all ain't seen nothing yet, because this next section is the single most excited I've been while reading the entire story. 900 chapters. This is the most excited I've been in the entire story.
Damn.
And that includes Marineford.
Kaido, mate.
So, Kinemon runs through the current plan, trying to rally up the existing support within the country to bolster the raid. Makes sense. And that's when we come back to the village all the food was given to. This thief with 5 A's in his name, Otama, molds his on up, and boom, Jack is right there looking for Luffy. But before they can exchange even 3 sentences, this random thief, it turns out he's a samurai, and an awesome one at that, slicing right through Jack with what looks like relative ease. So, in my head, I'm wondering, okay, so we're in Act 1, and Jack has already been dealt with relative competence by a complete unknown. Yeah, and then Kaido shows
just turns up,
He's a massive friggin' dragon, I swear. Mentally, I was preparing myself for Jack, not Kaido.
Yeah.
And certainly not
Oh my god.
Dragon Kaido,
But he's drunk, and he likes to get
peased.
peased.
Size and power so far removed from anything we've ever seen in the series, including Big Mom and Whitebeard, at least from a visual level. It's also helped in large part because at the beginning of the chapter, things were relatively calm. They were discussing things in secret, and this chapter ends with a giant Kaido dragon attacking a town. What is happening? I don't know, but what I do know is that in the middle of Law analyzing this situation, Luffy does, say it with me now, in typical Luffy fashion,
just goes for it.
Off full speed ahead into the woods towards Kaido.
Yep.
The excitement I felt when reading this was insane, but seriously, it only gets better. And look, I promise I'll analyze more towards the end, but goddamn, this section got me so hyped it's unreal, so I gotta vent. So, as it happens, Kaido is drunk as all hell and looking for some mighty brigand that he heard might have been in the forest. At this time, Law catches up with Luffy, during which time Hawkins catches up with Kaido and, in an effort to divert his rampage away from the village of Bakura, tells him that Luffy and co are at Odin Castle ruins. Now, what's important to understand here is that he doesn't actually know that they're there, but because it's a legend that he believes will add credibility to his claim for Kaido, it just so happens that on that ruin are in fact the Straw Hat Pirates and the rest of the remaining forces. Hawkins is the best subordinate, by the way. So Kaido just soars past Luffy in the blink of an eye before spitting fire onto the ruins, leveling the entire
Everyone
area
get down!
in a massive explosion. Luffy looks on in utter disbelief and shock, faced with a similar reality he experienced during the Shivaldi Archipelago arc, losing all of his friends. In this moment, he shows a tremendous evolution of character and strength of will, as he, without delay, without crying, deals an enormous elephant gun
just
straight
punches
to
him,
the head of Kaido. And at this moment, I'm loving life. So yeah, it's a pretty good chapter. Crash landing onto the town below, Luffy finds that something terrible has happened to Otama at the hands of Kaido as he made his way to the village in the first place. Enraged by this news, Luffy grits his teeth, punches the ground, and screams towards Kaido, standing defiantly, "I'm right here." Kaido, in response to this, asks who he is, and without missing a beat, cool as a cucumber, the young man from the East Blue declares,
Yeah, man.
Kaido quickly unleashes a massive blast from his mouth, but by the time that blast scorches the earth below, Luffy is high in the air and begins pummeling Kaido with consecutive colossal strikes all over his body. Kaido falls to his regular human form after this. The crowd remarks.
But then he just takes him out with one hit, doesn't he? He just like smacks him and he's down.
Luffy engages Gear 4 without delay and unleashes everything he has, successfully meeting his mark on the Emperor of the Sea.
Yeah, down, just out, just out. Chapter 924, the last chapter of Act 1. After 923 chapters of emotional development, improvement, and growth, after mastering his devil fruit power, upgrading it through the gear system, and after the leaps and bounds he's made with Haki, he unloaded it all on Kaido in a single chapter. Nothing.
And with one blow, Kaido knocks him out harder than any has in the past, without so much as a scratch on him. Now that's an imposing villain. Typically speaking, this tactic for establishing a villain or big bad by dunking on the main characters super early on is a bit of a cliche, but to be honest, it's not really a cliche or overdone at all within One Piece.
No, they don't do it at all in One Piece, no.
Act 1, there's still some more interesting and cool moments to speak of. On the cool front, while Luffy was lying lifeless after the battle with Kaido, and I use the word battle loosely, Kaido remarks that Luffy's been glaring at him the entire time, despite him looking like he's not conscious at all. Kaido walks off, and that's when everyone around Luffy falls to the ground.
Yeah, he's still there.
Luffy was on the verge of unconsciousness. He surprised Kaido with his use of the Supreme King
Haki, yeah.
I thought that was a pretty awesome scene, to be perfectly honest, but in the interest of wrapping things up, the Straw Hats on the hill were completely fine because
they got in a crater.
of a certain female warrior's devil fruit power. Frankie, Usopp, and Robin hear that Luffy fought Kaido
the
and is being
faces.
held prisoner, and they also make this face. It's wonderful. And when Luffy's thrown into a cell, he's sharing it with none other than Kid, another member of the worst generation of pirates. What a crazy situation.
Yeah, absolutely sick. Absolutely
This should be really interesting.
crazy.
With that, the curtain closes on Act 1. If I haven't made it abundantly clear already, Wano Act 1 is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's incredible. Wano's just sick.
It's stunningly beautiful, exceptionally well written, and has a super fun and straightforward story that has hidden complexity throughout. For instance, remember that sword dealer way back in Low Town that Zoro got Kitetsu 3 off? Well, during that chapter, chapter 97, he said, and I quote, "Famous swordsmen have died tragic deaths because they wielded the Kitetsu swords." This establishes the curse surrounding the blades themselves, obviously. But as we see earlier in this arc, the gentleman Luffy yeets Kitetsu 2 from refers to it as a cursed blade yet again. Now, I'm not saying there's a correlation between the sword and a curse necessarily, but Luffy and Otama both met sinister ends within this chapter, which is a wonderful bit of underlying continuity I had to point out because it was pointed out to me and I loved it. Wano Act 1 is most definitely something I want to check out in the anime in its entirety after I catch up with the rest of this series. I cannot wait to see what the rest of this amazing story will continue to yield as I venture into the second and third acts in the coming weeks. If you would like to support this channel on Patreon, you can do so for as little as $1 per video. I've uploaded all the videos in this series that have been taken away by Toei, so if you want to catch some of those while I work out the legal issues with the evil Japanese corporation, you can do so through the link in the description. But that'll do it for this video. As always, I've been Toy Not Mark. I'll see you all next week, and thank you so much for watching.
Oh, is he going to put something at the end? Is he going to put something at the end? Oh, what's happening? Oh. Do you know what, the flashback bits with Whitebeard and Blackbeard and, is it Odin? His name? Oh, I'm terrible with names. The guy that goes to Skypiea and reads the poneglyphs. Anyway, I'm glad he's loving it. Wano's sick, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has to say on the next 2 parts, and then the Checkered Fate theory. This is going to be a boss. This is going to be a good month. I love that I can check out loads of One Piece stuff now. And I'm also on volume 5 of Berserk now. Nearly finished it. I can't, like put it down. So, I'm sure I said I was going to check out the Berserk reviews in January, but I can see me checking out, like, the first 2 this month as well. So, there's other things as well to check out. My god, Berserk's incredible. But anyway, Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch in future videos. And I'll see you guys, yes, or you guys, next time.